One of the most important roles in Rainbow Six Siege is the entry fragger. But what is an entry fragger for the people that don't know, and how do you become a better one? Well, don't worry, I have you covered. I'll first start with talking about what an entry fragger is, and if you should play as one. An entry fragger is the person who first enters the building. They are the person who is known for their really good gun skill, game mechanics, and game sense. They're usually your top fragger pretty much every game. They are someone who has to play a lot of the time without much information on the enemy and has to take on multiple people at a time. They are usually the person who has the best aim and can get the important first kills to shape the round and how it goes. So unfortunately, this is a role that not everyone can fill. Really, only your best players should be playing as the entry fragger. If this role sounds like something you're able to play as and actually do good in, then maybe you just found your role. However, if you're someone who doesn't have the best aim, game sense, and game mechanics, then maybe this role isn't for you. Especially if you find yourself in the middle of the leaderboard or even at the bottom of the leaderboard most of the time, as well as someone who loses a lot of their 1v1s. Then you definitely shouldn't play as an entry fragger. Don't worry, there's a role that best fits everyone within Rainbow Six Siege though. There's no shame if you're not the team's entry fragger, as the team needs multiple different roles to be successful. But if you do feel like you're up to the task of being the entry fragger, then here's a few tips to help you become the best possible one there is. To start things off, you need to understand that intel is key. While you might not have enough time to gain all the intel needed to push in, at least some sort of intel is better than no intel. You could gain this intel by using your drones or even using certain operator gadgets. For example, you could use operators like Ayana, Dokkaebi, or even Lion to help you gain intel on the enemy. Pre-placed drones are also huge for being able to gain intel on the enemies. You never want to leave your drone out in the open or in a common spot. Instead, pre-place your drone somewhere hidden where the enemies can't see it. This way you're gaining intel on the enemies without them knowing you have intel on them. Furthermore, you want to always use all of the utility you have, as well as your gadget. For example, if you have flash grenades, then make sure you're using them. You want to minimize having to 1v1 the enemy by putting the odds in your favor. If you flash the enemy, then you no longer have to 1v1 them. You could just get a free kill, taking things like luck and skill out of the equation. The same goes for if you destroy a shield that's in your way. Let's say you're playing as Ashe. You could use your gadget to destroy the shield. This way you could leave the player behind it exposed and get a free kill. Additionally, you want to always relay information to your team. As the entry fragger, you're the first person to see where the enemies are, how the site setup looks, and where important pieces of utility are. You need to give all this information to your teammates, especially when you die. You need to make the call out where the enemy is and where anyone else might be. Giving this crucial information can be the difference between your team winning and your team losing, so always relay information to the best of your ability. Likewise, you should always be self-evaluating your gun skill on a scale from 1 to 10 and ask yourself why you're there and how you could improve. You constantly want to work on your gun skill because that's one of the most important things a good entry fragger can have. They must be able to win their gunfights, especially even multiple gunfights at a time. As an entry fragger, if you're just getting a 1-for-1 constantly, then you're not doing your job right. Going 1-for-1 just makes it a 4v4. That's it. There's still a lot of progress your team has to be able to do to get into the bomb site, so really you're not doing much for your team. Honestly, you want to be going for 2 or more kills as the entry fragger while still keeping your life if possible. To do this, you need to have the ability to win your gunfights, so constantly keep practicing your gun skill. Moreover, another great tip is to try to lower your sensitivity. I say this because it's better to have a slow sensitivity compared to a high one, as you're more accurate with a slow sensitivity. I know it's cool to have a high sensitivity that's super flashy, but it's better to have a sensitivity that's manageable compared to one that you can barely manage. A lot of people have this problem and don't even realize it. Then they wonder why they are flicking past the enemy or why the recoil is so hard to control on the weapons. It's all because their sense is just way too high. Additionally, you should be working on your quick peeking. This is extremely useful to help you win more gunfights. As I said earlier, you'll be entering the building with little to no intel on the enemies sometimes. So you have to quick peek to be able to gain intel on the enemy if an enemy is watching from a certain angle. This way you won't die right away, and instead you could re-engage within the fight knowing exactly where the enemy is. Finally, the last tip I have is to always work with your teammates. Always try to have someone drone you in if possible, because it'll save you time and allow you to get a free kill if they find anyone while droning. Also, always make sure to have a teammate refrag you when you die if possible. This is extremely important because it'll give your team the man advantage. You always want to gain the man advantage so you have more people to help you kill the rest of the enemies and gain more map control. In conclusion, to be a good entry fragger, you must have good gun skill, good game mechanics, and good game sense. You are always the first person to enter the building, so you must be able to win your gunfights because you're bound to get into a few. Sometimes even with multiple enemies at a time and very little intel on them. The entry fragger is someone who is known to have great aim and is usually the guy who is top fragging. So if this doesn't sound like you at all, then maybe the entry fragger isn't your role. However, if this does sound like you, then there's ways to get even better to be the best possible entry fragger there is. You must gain intel as quickly as possible using things like pre-placed drones, operator abilities, or even getting droned in. Also, you should always be using your utility like flash grenades, for example, to give you the advantage within your gunfights, as well as use your gadget to destroy things like shields that get in your way. Furthermore, you want to always relay information to your team, self-evaluate your gun skill, and work on your gun skill, as well as minimize your 1-for-1s and most definitely lower your sensitivity. As an entry fragger, you will a lot of the time be getting into gunfights with very little intel, so always make sure to quick peek as well to gain information and allow you to win the gunfight. Just be sure to always know being the entry fragger is one of the hardest roles within Rainbow Six Siege, so really consider everything I've discussed before you play as one. That's it for me though. Do you play as an entry fragger within Rainbow Six Siege? If not, then what's your role? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, and if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.